Yeah, I'm Martin Lockett, Dean of the Nottingham University Business School in Ningbo, China. Nottingham University works globally with campuses in the UK, in China and in Malaysia. My role as Dean means that I lead about 100 academic staff, as well as around 25 researchers and professional support staff. We do a combination of undergraduate, postgraduate and doctoral education, as well as a lot of work with businesses. And we also link that to the university's incubator. Let me explain 3 key points. The first one is about the difference between entrepreneurship and innovation. So entrepreneurship is often seen as starting your own business by yourself. Innovation is about creating something new in an organization. Now, both of those are fairly similar on the one hand, but they also differ. And what I saw almost is a pyramid. If you want to do everything, then you can start your own business. Equally, there's a lot of innovation and entrepreneurial spirit, if you like, in setting up new ventures within organizations. And then even in your everyday work, for example, if you're working in a business school, setting up a new program, you can be entrepreneurial. So there, the key things, I think, are around mindset is the first thing, around doing something new, and I'd also say about creating value, doing something that other people value. And that's what will give you a sustainable business or a sustainable new initiative. Well, I think an MBA, people talk about Master of Business Administration, but actually I don't think it's really administration, that's just a historical term. Equally, I'm an editor of a journal called the Asia Pacific Journal of Business Administration, and we don't think of it as administration. I'd like to see it as creating people who can be leaders inside business. And in business, I mean they're both for-profit, non-profit, and also extend that into public service. So in terms of the evolution of the MBA, I think it's about enabling people who come as students on the MBA to be able to improve their skills to do that. Now, some of that will be deepening knowledge, but a lot of MBAs probably spend too much time on the knowledge and not enough on the attitude. So I think then, and especially if you're talking about developing entrepreneurs, you've got to give people learning experiences that enable them to experiment safely with new ideas, learn the skills that are needed. So I gave some examples in my talk of people doing projects as part of an innovation module at a business school where I used to work. And there we got people to develop a new business idea. And through that, they both learnt about that idea, but they also learnt more about how to innovate, how to set up a new business. And we use there the format of a reflective piece of work afterwards to get people to think, okay, what did this mean for me? What can I learn from this? Now, if you're just setting up a business, you probably won't do that as systematically. So that's where I think an MBA can help. Also in an MBA, or for example in our Masters in Entrepreneurship and Innovation Management at Nottingham, we get people to develop a business plan. And we hope there that they're going to take that forward, either immediately or later. Or perhaps in some cases, as I mentioned in my talk, say, no, this isn't a viable idea or it's not for me. And they can do that, as I said before, experiment in a safe environment, learn in a safe environment, and then that's the way in which they can develop their skills as a leader, whether it's either in their own business, in developing innovative ideas in an organization, or perhaps in a more general role in an established business. Well, I think it's a mistake to think that you can teach it. I think the idea that you have a lecturer who tells you this is what happens. Now that can help with some things. If you want to learn about finance, what's involved in accounts, then there's a certain amount of teaching and learning in that. If you're talking about entrepreneurship, I think you have to design learning experiences that give people, if you like, a simulated experience of being an entrepreneur, of being an innovator. If you do that, then they learn both about the subject area, on the one hand, but they also learn about how they feel, how to get other people working with them, what the issues are. So I think we have to do both. On the one hand, develop the knowledge that people need, those more, if you like, analytical skills on the one hand, but equally we've got to get people to understand what's involved, what does it feel like to be an entrepreneur or to lead an innovation in a company. Well, I'll give an example, not directly from an MBA, but from our Masters in Nottingham. One of the things we do there is we get people to develop a business plan. Many of those are doing it across borders, so they're studying in China, but about 40% of the students come from outside China. equally, a number of the Chinese students will be looking at ideas that then can be used either for export or maybe outside China. So we inherently look there at international things. So we give people the experience, the exposure to international businesses in China on the one hand, but also get people to come back and think about their own country. So in the example I gave in my talk of one of the students who's looking at ecotourism in Thailand, then one of the things they're doing is they're looking, for example, at how some of the trends in tourism in China. Could they be Chinese tourists? Are they Western tourists? Are they Thai tourists? Looking at that internationally. And so therefore studying outside your own country can help give you almost more understanding of your own country and the business opportunities there are there. Well, I think all the time you've got to say that it's a viable option. And you've got to look then at what people are going to do after their MBA. And I think in some ways an MBA is a period of choice about that. So sometimes people will be thinking explicitly about their own business. In that case, it's an opportunity to develop that thinking and to make the final decision whether they want to go that way. In other cases, actually exposure to the ideas will make somebody think, yes, I could do this myself. And sometimes a group of the students. I think I'd say I wouldn't restrict this to MBAs, because I think it's also true of students across the university. So some of the things we do at Nottingham are from undergraduates through to doctoral students, is actually to give them extracurricular opportunities, even if they're not in the business school, as well as opportunities within our business curriculum. So I think there's an emphasis there that there can be not both on the MBA on the one hand, but also on other students. And sometimes they can work really well together. And that's something I'd like to see us do more of, where, for example, some people have technical ideas, getting together with people who have more of the business sense to form a good team. Well, I think it does differ quite a lot. China at the moment, I would say, is a great place from the point of view of entrepreneurship. There's huge encouragement from local government, national government and so on in the context of the current 5-year plan and local government plans. So in Ningbo, where we're based, I've just been surprised at the number of incubators for new businesses. We run one ourselves, but it's not the only one. So I believe that it's actually in China is a very, very fertile environment. I think you can see that now with the growth of a number of, in some cases, very large Chinese businesses internationally, as well as others that are smaller. So if you think about things like bike sharing, Mobike, Ofo, they're examples which are now spreading to the West. If I contrast it with Russia, then I think there's it's a less clear environment. There still have been many entrepreneurs in Russia, and there are new businesses. One of our MBAs where I used to work created a new taxi business. So it still happens, but I think I would stress the environment in China is at the moment very conducive to that. Now, there are sometimes bureaucratic and other obstacles, but increasingly the local government is paying attention to those and trying to streamline them. Not always successfully, but in many cases that's happening, and there's a large amount of support there for developing entrepreneurship rather than restraining it through red tape and bureaucracy.